Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order, Monday, March 18th, 2024. Welcome to spring, everybody, and spring break. Uh, Wanting to acknowledge that we are gathering and governing on the unceded traditional territories of the Comox First Nation, and we are, as always, grateful for their grace and collaboration in this work. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Oh, I guess I will note that Councillor Barecki is away on holidays and Councillor Sullivan is away sick. So we are a small and mighty team today. Reports. So third-party events assessment criteria. Ryan, come on up. Thank you for this.
No, thank you. So, the reason for this report really is, as you all know, we've got a lot of community events that happen in Cumberland. I think I noted in the report between May and September, there were only 5 weekends last year that didn't have an event. 3 of those were long weekends. So we've just, we've got certain parameters that we can use to assess whether an event is appropriate, but we always are wondering what council thinks is appropriate and what isn't. So that's really what the point of this is just to give you all a chance to let us know what you're thinking. So I put a few in the report. I put a few sort of sample questions. My intention of this was to be fairly open-ended and just really hear what you have to say. But I'll just go through some of the sample questions. So how big is too big? So for example, we have had an event, I think the last couple summers, it's slated again for this summer, that's expected to have, they're expecting up to 15,000 people over 3 days. There's also, there's concerts that go on that might have a smaller number, but it's, concentrated usage in front of a stage, that kind of thing. The bigger the event, the larger the potential impact on the community. Obviously, all these events have incremental impacts on the field as well. Like we struggle to keep up with the amount of maintenance that we really should be doing for our turf. And so all of these factors just kind of come into play. Trail-based events. We have like a lot of these events. They're maybe based out of Village Park, but they're using the trail network. It's a lot of people coming in at one time. Full disclosure, I am the organizer of a trail-based event. So let's leave that one. But yeah, just, if you have thoughts on, they all go through the Cumberland Community Forest, which has a covenant, primarily to protect the ecological integrity of the area, and secondly, to allow non-motorized recreation as long as it's in alignment with ecological integrity. Other examples that have come up is, an event that maybe lacks community support. So, for example, a new trail event that, we start hearing that other event organizers are worried that it might sap the volunteer capacity. To what extent should these kinds of things come into play? Does it matter if the event is from a local person or an out-of-town person, a for-profit event, a not-for-profit event, these kinds of things? Right now, we have no formal parameters to deny these kinds of things, and maybe that's the way it stays. But I'll let you weigh in on that. And then other things come up that, they have other potential effects that aren't necessarily addressed formally. For example, a music festival that books a bunch of venues, has a bunch of concerts, and the event itself is great as far as we're concerned, but in conjunction with that event, sometimes there are a lot of people who don't necessarily have accommodations, and we see illegal camping. Again, we lack a sort of a formal mechanism to address that directly. But as an example, is renting out the Village Park parking lot or a section of Village Park parking lot for some additional camping in conjunction with another event. Is that something that that council would like us to consider? So maybe I'll leave it at that, and yeah, I'll just be ready to try to take some notes on all your lovely thoughts, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Ryan.
Sorry, could I just,
Sure.
and so this is all, Ryan is going to use your feedback for all of this and build a policy, right?
Yeah.
Or a yeah.
Sorry, I was supposed to lead with that. So I
It is
bel-
in the report. We did read it.
yeah, I believe attached to the report was the event application manual, and that was sort of an informal, not a policy, just public-facing document that eventually the plan is, with your feedback, to turn that into some kind of a policy that will be formally endorsed.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I have lots of thoughts, but I'm not sure how we want to organize it. So we can just each take a turn, or we can go by topic, or we can go through the event manual, or we can go through the report, or how do you guys want to approach?
I can just start giving my thoughts, I guess, on what Ryan presented. I feel like we have a pretty good events policy. Like, you know, we have a lot of considerations in there around traffic. Of course, they have to give us the traffic plan. They have to give us an event plan. They have to okay it with the fire chief, so there's safety precautions there. As far as like the number of people, I think that maybe both for like our park and for the trails, if we're having repeat events, maybe we could have a policy that is a little bit better at reviewing the previous event, previous year's event, to make sure that we're coming back and saying, okay, like, was there damage to parks or trails, or was there a lot of complaints? Was there noise issues? You know, all those things that we can really come back and say to the proponent, like, hey, these are the issues that we can't abide by, sort of thing, and so we're not going to, you know, allow you to hold the event again, or, you know, you need to show us how you're going to remediate or mediate or
Remediate.
yeah, ameliorate,
Mitigate.
yeah, these things, right? I'm just trying to think of some of your other questions you put forward.
Trail-based event, impact on the trail
Yeah.
network,
Yeah.
the size you kind of adjusted or addressed.
Yeah.
If an event lacks other sort of community support. And then we talked about illegal camping and other sort of ancillary.
Yeah, the
aspects.
community support, I'm not so sure. I think, you know, we certainly would like to focus on more locally produced events. But, you know, I think we have a number of measures in place, and as long as they're, like all those things that I listed, if they're, you know, have that traffic plan, if they have that safety plan, all those things in place, garbage, all those things, then I think, you know, the community feedback is probably going to be limited. I mean, we already have laws against, you know, they have to be, you know, they can't be like anything that's promoting hate speech or anything like that. So, you know, if it's distasteful to some people, I don't know how you know, how we could fairly deal with that unless it was breaking some other law or bylaw. And then the camping, I think that we have allowed camping within the park, but you're saying additional camping within the parking lots.
That's right. We have allowed camping, we've allowed vehicle camping in certain aspects as well. But typically we'll allow non-vehicle camping in that kind of forested section, the northeast corner of Village Park, in conjunction with another event if it's requested. But we typically don't rent out sections of parking lots, with the one exception being like,
BMX, yeah.
what's that?
Just BMX, I think, right? Well, or, yeah.
Yeah, the BMXs are always camping there.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah, I mean,
boat weekend.
they have access to like along the
other-
colliery and then
yeah.
behind the BMX track. We typically, nothing's coming to mind as far as events that we've booked off sections of the actual village parking lot. I know some events have sort of spilled out into the cultural center parking lot. We haven't really been talking about indoor events with this. I mean, you're welcome to, if you have opinions, then please feel free. And then like demo days, mountain bike demo days will allow someone to set up a single tent kind of thing in the CRI parking lot.
And I just think we did have a request, like last year with
complaint,
Woodstove, could there be parking in the village park? Well, of course, at that time of year, we wouldn't be able to let RV, like at that time of year, they wouldn't be tents and then they'd be RVs. And we couldn't allow that on our field, right? Because of the impact to it. So that's why we're saying, okay, and then we did see, you do see camping on side streets and everything. So just wondering what your thoughts are on that type of, like, because it would have limited the number of camping on streets, but it would take up parking lots, or it would do something, and we're not really a camp, like, that's not our business, that's not our service, so it's awkward, but
Yeah.
it's just, we're not sure what else without accommodation in the town to.
Or public washrooms.
Yeah, I think that if camping were going to be allowed in the parking lot, one requirement would be that you have to have portable toilets there.
The danger, I think, with that is then you're congregating people in an area who have just come from a show and it's maybe 1 a.m. And the tendency at that time would be like, let's
Party
get this
time.
party started. Or let's finish this party here, or maybe not. But I think that's the consideration, right? If we say, okay, you guys can all go park down here, then we're concentrating that in one area. I don't know. Yeah, so maybe dispersal is the best case scenario, but then the bathroom thing is an issue as well. So that's not that helpful.
It's a challenging one.
It's a challenging one, and I appreciate the impact on neighborhoods and maybe putting it down by the park, and then somebody has to, part of the event plan then would include security for that area or some such arrangement. But then we're adding costs to events that are pretty grassroots in many cases, right? We don't want to price them out.
Have we received complaints?
We did last year, yeah.
What does the complaint file look like on this?
Yeah, I think last year we received maybe only one formal complaint. I mean, we noticed it quite a bit, and I mean, a couple other comments just sort of in passing around the community. People were noticing it, but yeah, I've got one in my folder that's an email with photos and all that.
That was because they were
Car camping.
car camping on side streets and.
Yeah, it was First Street maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we see it in the recreation center parking lot. It happens a lot
Sure.
there. I think several of the side streets.
Yeah.
Cultural center parking lot.
Yeah, I guess the advantage to having it concentrated is they can cordon it off and they can have security. Whereas if it's kind of dispersed around the village, then it's our responsibility and our bylaw that has to deal with it. So there might be an advantage there to allowing it to be in a certain space. And then you can also tell people who are car camping on the street, hey, like,
You can go
yeah,
down
there's
Yeah.
a place for you.
There's a sanctioned area.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not security we need. They just have to have volunteers on site to manage it somehow, right? Manage the garbage and all that stuff and activities. Yeah, that could be. Then we're not asking them to incur another cost of finding a security firm, but just managing that impact or mitigating that impact.
They could also, like, I'm not sure what their request entailed, but they could also, like, maybe they were going to charge and then that
Right.
would cover, I don't
Yeah,
really know
yeah,
exactly.
for sure.
Yeah.
That would cover the cost. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have there been other complaints about traffic? Like the how big is too big? I'm pretty sure I know which event you're talking about. And I know parking was a zoo down by the field there for that weekend. Are we receiving other complaints from neighbors about just the number of events or the traffic or the?
So I don't recall any specific complaints about traffic related to that event, like any formal complaints that have come through. There were a couple of, well, less related complaints. Some lights were left on accidentally and that was fixed. And I mean, every summer there's one or two sort of noise complaints, whether it's this event or that event. The neighbors around Village Park, I think that, and I'm just completely speaking anecdotally now, like I think that some of them get tired of the fact that there's events there just about every weekend. And
Yeah. I wonder if there's a, just, I was thinking about the impact on the grass and what we heard last year about having back-to-back events and not having an opportunity to get in there and look after the field because there's always an event being built or taken down or actively happening. So maybe we pace those large events in the village so we're giving the grass time to recover. Like if you're having a big, if it's pouring rain when we do the Perseverance Run and number 6 turns into a mud pit, let's not do the next weekend is another big event and number 6. Let's wait 2 weeks or something like that for it to recover. I don't know whether that makes sense. Space them out like that.
yeah, I mean, the potential challenge is, I mean, you mentioned number 6 Mine. We have moved away from hosting these large community events at number 6 Mine, just because it is really, I mean, I guess they're kind of all residential neighborhoods, but that one feels like it's more of a community park. We grandfathered in a couple of those. You mentioned the Perseverance Trail Run. The Cumbie was another one that we grandfathered in, and then they moved to Village Park voluntarily, just because it's better set up for them. So where was I going? So it would be hard to sort of move them, Village Park, well, you can't have it there, so let's move you to number 6 Mine, unless council decided that they had no problem with community events there, then I guess that's back on.
Just wouldn't mind, so I'll just weigh in a bit. Like it would be very difficult. Some of these events take like a year to organize and people buy, so it'd be really hard to, like you wouldn't, I think you'd have to foresee that you can't have because you couldn't cancel it if it was just muddy and there would
No, I
happen-
don't mean cancel
or-
them.
oh,
I mean
okay.
scheduling. So we know in the fall,
I
probably,
see.
it's
Certain
going to be
times.
raining in November, right?
Fair. Yeah.
So let's not have 2
Back.
weekends of back-to-back in November because it's probably going to be pouring rain. Or, I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to find a way that we can proactively, during the scheduling period, address some of the impacts. And the other thing that I noticed last year is the Colliery Trail was used for one of the races, and that was a bit of a nightmare because I didn't expect to see a race, and so I was walking there with my 2 giant dogs and my husband, and then there's 400 racers running towards you, or biking. I can't remember if they were on bikes or on foot, but I was like, okay, now where do we go? So I've noticed that there is much better signage around trail-based events. So there's always like a poster up that says the route and where not to be, which is super helpful. I don't know whether I didn't notice if it's not in the policy or maybe it's in the application, I don't know.
It is something we typically ask for,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's really helpful to have them at every entrance to the forest, so that people are aware of what they're going into. Yeah, and then I feel like maybe we do a priority for events that are fundraising for the forest or trail maintenance, because we want our community partners who are doing that fundraising to be able to host events so that they can continue their good work. But same thing, making sure we're not scheduling something every weekend out there. I mean, it's hard to balance. Lots of people in the community are also participating in these events, so we don't want to take the events away, but we also know that lots of people in the community just want to walk the forest when there aren't 800 people in there in some kind of race, right? And so what is that? What's the balance
Yeah.
there, council? Is it, so how, so I have a question around that. You said we made 16,000 and in the financial implications, $16,700 in parks rental fees. Any idea how many events that was, like just off the top of your head? Like hundreds?
Jeez, I didn't anticipate that question. Was it? I would guess less than 100.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's, well, call it an event every weekend through the summer, just about.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, then there's like indoor events, and sometimes there's multiple on the weekend.
And then all the festivals and.
That
yeah.
includes hall rental fees as well, that
I
16,000?
believe that. Oh no, sorry, this is just parks. You're right.
Just
Yeah.
just parks, so strictly outdoor events.
Yeah, so that would be less than 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have 100 weekends, so.
Right.
Yeah.
You're always quick with the math. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good for that.
Just going back to your comment about the colliery, because I think I remember when this happened. Is it more like a whole bunch of people all at once? Like I think the event.
It was
that we
it
saw-
was staged, so they were letting people go as, I think.
like everyone was leaving at the same time and down the colliery.
Yeah, I just think we could bump those onto the logging road and out of the actual community.
Yeah.
Because having however many hundred people that was on what is
An alley.
really like an alley to, it was just a bit much, I
Okay.
felt. But that's just me. But the logging road is right there, like you just have to go over the bridge or over right?
Yeah.
To avoid that. Yeah.
The one thing that council could give feedback on is like if there were some sort of large event or big, like down at Village Square or down at Village Park, say every single weekend starting in April or like whenever it's safe enough, and then all the way to the end of September. Like if every single weekend there was the use of that park for an event, would that what is too, like what
That's
would that
too
look
much.
like to you?
That feels like too much.
Yeah.
I'm
So like every single, like, because we only have 5 weekends now between May and September, right? So what if those 5 weekends get used up and it's every single weekend between May and, like, just things like that are,
Yeah.
good, useful information.
I kind of like the idea of having those 5 weekends free, just for a breather. The residents can take a breath. It's on the long weekend. Are we getting any pushback from the field, from sports users of the field, that they can't access the field because it's full of tents and people eating ribs?
Not that I know. I know there's been, different field user groups sort of advocating for use that may, basically we've got, the baseballs and not so much the lacrosse, but the rugby and the soccer, that all want use of the field. It seems like it's more sort of allocating between those groups. I haven't really heard the conflict with events sort of bubble to the surface.
Yeah, and most of the events aren't the full park. There's some portion of the park that's unused, right?
Yeah. There's a couple big ones that
Yeah,
take up the
that
whole
take
thing.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
There was, with one of the events last year, RV camping on the field. Is that going to be okay in the future?
That's one. So that's one that we sort of allow on we'll tentatively allow it ahead of time. And then we'll say, if it rains for 3 days beforehand, then, we might have to rescind this. I've had pretty good conversations with Tyler, the Parks and Trails supervisor. He's never excited about vehicles on the field, but we recognize that it is a multi-purpose field that accommodates, multiple different uses. And yeah, it does have a cumulative impact. As he likes to put it, if you were to look at the field from, last year to this year, it would look exactly the same. If you looked at it from this year to next year, it would look pretty much the same. But if you looked at it from 2015 to 2024, you'd
It's
see
radically
the
different.
impacts. Yeah.
So I think we could, like, I think it's okay for people to drive on the field to drop things off, and if there's a vehicle necessary for a particular thing, but I think having, 20 RVs on the field is not necessary. Also, we don't allow dogs in our parks, and there were dogs in the park because they were camping there. So that seems unfair to residents who aren't allowed to have their dogs in the park when other people are coming here and camping in the park with their dogs. And then I wanted to also talk about the climate change. So I think it would be really good information for us to be collecting through the application process, and I don't know how onerous this would be, but just your suggested, like the number of vehicles in an event, how many people are traveling, do we have an estimate of where they're traveling from? Are we burning, like, are we running 20 generators? Are we, I don't know, what's the GHG impact on it?
Along those lines, how much garbage are we producing at some of these events?
Yeah. And then do we have rules around that? Like, do we ensure that people are not, like, can we say,
We encourage recycling.
yeah, but we should
Yeah.
be like putting, things should be like no, at Ribfest, they have compost, garbage, recycling, right? Like the whole thing. I assume that our event producers are doing that because it's good for your event, but I would like us to also ask them to do that directly. And also encourage like shuttle buses so that if we're having 15,000 visitors to the village over 3 days, they're not all parking here and they're not all driving here. Yeah, I think the conflict last year was more about the Sandy dump conflict with the parkers, or people got trapped behind the line of, so that's, won't be an issue this year, but having people like actively managing parking, and leaving parking too for like, when there's an event in the park, the playground is still open at most times, right? That top piece of the park is generally not included, but
That's right.
there's nowhere for people to park to get access to there. So I don't know whether we keep, maybe it's just accessible parking that we make sure we have available for people that want to go there and everybody else is expected to walk. I don't know.
Mom and child parking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as part of the traffic management plan, I mean, we do, for events above a certain size, we do require that they provide a traffic management plan that our operations department will approve. And that often involves, you need a parking attendant, you need a certain amount of accessible parking, things like that. Part of the challenge is we have a limited capacity to kind of oversee
Yeah.
the events when they're actually going on. So, I mean, I think that most of the organizers are, we ask them to do something and they're compliant. But
Yeah. Yeah, but I think you're right. If that's what we're asking them to do, then we expect them to do it. I don't know whether we need to enforce.
I guess we do need to update that portion of the event policy now that has the Sandy dump in it, because it does, have
Yeah.
waste disposal.
I believe I updated it after it got included in here. Someone pointed it out to me.
Okay.
So thank you for noticing that.
Okay, yeah. And I guess that does have an impact on whether we would want to invite RVs here at all if there's nowhere for them to.
Dump.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, most RVs can go 2 days, but beyond that, they have to find somewhere to dump. So yeah.
If I may, one of the comments you had, Mayor Brown, was possibly prioritizing events that are fundraising for trail maintenance or for the forest. There's another suggestion of, well, I've lost it. Maybe this was the one. I was just wondering if that's if that's a shared opinion or if there's other comments.
Is that, so another question around that, is that the majority of the events that are happening in the forest, is that who's putting them on?
So I'm not sure I understand.
So are there a bunch of external events promoters from elsewhere, aside from BC Bike Race is in there, and then Momar is in
Momar.
there?
Yeah. So who are, I mean, BC Bike Race every year, Momar, my own nonprofit Steam Donkey Racing. We don't directly raise funds for them, but we do give a donation. And then there's, Devil's Ladder, Perseverance, which are large fundraisers for the Forest Society. As far as other regular ones, I mean, UROC puts on a series of its own events. Yeah, there's one new application that's come in this year for a new event from an external organizer that I'm not familiar with. Yeah, I think when we're talking about the trail-based, like the races, most of them, I'd say, are associated in some way with either UROC or the Forest Society,
Yeah.
with those two obvious exemptions.
Yeah, and I understand that, that lots of those events donate to our partners as well, so that is appreciated. But we're also, the Minister of Tourism has suggested that we add an event tax to help manage tourism in the village. So whether that's mitigating or restoration projects in the forest, or infrastructure or bylaw or whatever we need to manage the impacts of tourism here. So I think that's something for us to consider, and I don't think it would need to be a major cost, like $1 a body or something, which can be passed on to the user, but not impact the
Broader community.
Organizer.
yeah.
And if I may, I'd like to see that on the for-profit events, rather than the local fundraising
Right,
events.
yeah.
Right?
But if the majority of the fundraising event, if the majority of the events are fundraising events,
No, but it's BC Bike Race, it's Momar, it's
yeah,
some of these big events that are the very big events.
yeah,
And they're the ones with the most impact.
yeah.
And those are,
Even Wood Stove, we might want to consider it there too.
I was just going to say, those are the only two sort of recurring for-profit outdoor events or trail-based events that we do get.
Other than that one you're just mentioning now, the new possible.
The new one, yeah, I believe that's for-profit as well, yeah.
And of course, this is really thinking forward as well. Like, that's really what this is coming forward to you all for, because, we've been managing up till now, but it's like, okay, what if we are going bigger? What if these
Yeah.
things happen in the future? We just want to know where you land.
Yeah, like I'm not sure we have capacity for another big event in the village that's a for-profit event. Like, we have so many things going on in there all the time, like every single day. There's like, and it's having an impact on residents' ability to enjoy it, and on the forest itself, on the conservation area.
Especially over the summer, from that
Yeah.
May to September period you're talking about.
Mhm.
I mean, at this point, I'd be wanting to sort of cap that And then if a new event wants to come, they're gonna have to wait till somebody else gives up their weekend and just prioritize the ones that have been coming every year.
Yeah, and then also considering a cap on the total number of, like, is that, it would be great to have some, like, science around this, but, do we just allow these events to grow? Like, could we have 1,500 people in a race? Could we have 2,000 people in a race? Like, is that okay? I'm not sure how we would, like,
Do we have any numbers on some of the bigger ones? BC Bike Race or Momar? How many runners are in these?
Yeah, you know, I'm sorry, I should have looked into that coming in here. I can't give you any definitive numbers, no.
I think that's where a review process would be
Yeah.
helpful, because then we would see, okay, that was too much, and then we
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
make the adjustment.
Looking at it the following year and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and, yeah, assessing how it went.
yeah, I think that's a good idea, the review
Absolutely.
process, having that built into the application somehow.
That, and then limiting.
And some kind of like, is there a deposit people make in case, okay.
Yeah, there is a damage deposit.
Yeah, so we could hold the damage deposit until they actually participate in the review, because I imagine once they've had the event, they're off doing other things.
Oh, the post-event review with staff, just to go over.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I guess that doesn't happen on a formal basis necessarily, but, you know, we do hold the damage deposit until our parks crew has a chance to go in and assess how everything was. And
right,
Yeah.
yeah. And then, and you're gonna look at fees as well, so I think that's, another way we can, build some capacity through these. Like, if we're gonna do all these events, I do think the village needs to at least be able to pay for the staff time that we are doing to manage all these, events. So whatever that looks like. So maybe when you come back, having like numbers of bodies in, like, numbers of people, I don't know, the people in the races, people coming, like, just having some data to help us, help guide the policy. And then also, you know, maybe we do a survey or something with the event producers to see, and if we were going to add the tax thing, we would do this anyway, but to just see what kind of impact that would have and how that would impact the production.
Another possible way to look at fees, on Schedule B, the insurance and damage deposit requirements are all on a point system. Shouldn't the fees almost be on that same point system, somehow, for how we charge out for the event? Like, if they're gonna bring 5,000 plus people, 5 to 10,000 people to the event or more, then
Yeah.
it costs more to run the event. Where if it's a small, so I don't know if that
Yeah.
can work or something that
Because
be
the
looked
bigger
at.
the event, the bigger the impact, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe that's where the tax could come in, the event
Yeah.
tax, over a certain size that it automatically
Right.
applies the tax.
yeah,
Yeah, and then we're incentivizing event producers to lower the impact, you know, or to cap I'm sure just the logistics cap the number of participants, but I'm not sure we understand what that natural cap is and whether that's where we want it to be. So that would be good information to get from them as well
Okay.
to feed into this. And then I'm curious if in the parks, the park permits and the rental fees, does that include like the outdoor preschools and all the school groups that are out there?
That would. However, I don't think we typically collect much. I believe right now, and I'm going by memory right now, I don't have the bylaw up in front of me, but I don't believe there is a cost for an annual trail use permit for nonprofits.
For nonprofits. So are the preschool providers nonprofits?
No, they're not. That's a good point. I don't know if there are any of the preschools that have these permits with us.
So that would be a good thing to capture because they are having a massive impact on the forest. And I know we're doing a management plan and we're working with them and educating people on stuff, but every time I go into the forest, there's a new group in a new spot. And it's
Now-
30 kids.
The again, by memory, the annual trail use fee for a commercial entity is $100. So it wouldn't be a huge amount of money that we'd be bringing in
We should increase
as it currently
that
stands.
substantially. I would be quite, yeah. I think we could
I
increase
think
that.
for the school district, we haven't.
Yeah, the school district's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I also think we could be in conversation, and I know CCFS is in conversation with them around just educating the teachers on where and setting up some places that are sanctioned and asking people to stick to those places. But I also think we could ask the school district because they have to, if this was a normal situation, if the school wasn't so close to the forest, they would have to get a bus and bus the kids and get them to the forest. And I'm sure we would be, or our partner is in conversation with them around the conservation issues in there, but it would be worthwhile to have a conversation with them too about contributing in some way, whether that's a permit or whether that's, through the PAC or through some other function, I don't know, but I just think there's a lot of, it's a massive benefit to the school and to our kids to be in there, but they are having a massive impact, and we don't want to stop them from being in there, but we need to manage where people are and what they're doing in there, unfortunately, because there's just so many now. Like, I think I ran into 3 different groups the other day on one walk. So that's, a lot of footsteps. Anything else?
Ryan, anything else?
Did you
Is
get?
have we answered most of
Yeah.
your questions?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it was the questions themselves were a bit vague, so I didn't entirely know what to expect. But more than anything, I just wanted to hear what you're all thinking in terms of direction of that. Yeah, I hear capping somehow the number of events, and we talked about. I mean, to do that, we need a system of prioritizing, and whether that's grandfathering in the previous events or whether it's looking at, as you suggested, events that contribute back to our local organizations. Maybe it's events that are hosted by local organizations. It sounds like that's something that's a framework that'll need to be established. But we can kind of use the status quo, those 5 free weekends over 5 months, as the limit, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, a lot more will have to come through in the recreation fees bylaw. And the current plan for that is that we'd probably bring it forward in a couple of stages. One would be just sort of some CPI increases. And then some of these larger decisions that are going to require a bit more thought would likely be a later edition of it.
Yeah, because we'd want to do some consultation with that. Yeah, I mean, these events are what make the community so vibrant and awesome, right? But they're also just getting to be more and more, more and more and more and more, and taking more and just having more impact. So I think, it's good timing for us to look at where those lines are before we're having to go, okay, now we need to cancel 5 events that are coming
Yeah.
a year because it's overwhelming.
That feels right.
Yeah, so thank you for bringing this forward.
And sorry, just one final question. Were there any final thoughts on allowing camping at Village Park parking lot? I know there were definite pros and cons.
Say Village Park parking lot. Which parking lot are you?
The one next to the BMX track.
Yeah.
The one next to the BMX track.
I mean, I think for me, the concern around having people down there is not having no bylaw or no one down. It's away from the eyes of the neighbors, and it's that is concerning.
I think they would need security.
They need some kind of management.
Whether it's volunteer or professional, they
Yeah.
need some kind of
Yeah.
oversight.
Otherwise, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't get.
And I
out of
mean,
hand.
and I mean, we could also use this parking lot for that same purpose.
The recreation center?
Yeah, which then has access to washrooms, or potentially, right? That could build in, or this parking lot, and then there's just more eyes and awareness. I don't know.
Those are much more in the neighborhood parking
Yeah.
lot, so.
Which would mean that people couldn't get out of hand because we'd have eyes on them and complaints and other things. So they'd be better managed, I think. I don't know.
And then just a quick question on that, like, are you, would that be, you're looking at doing that for any festival that asks, or like, and that would be in the summertime as well, or like, the reason why we were considering it just for that one was because no accommodation, there is no campground open at that time of year. Like, I'm wondering if there's some criteria that you'd be interested in that, or if there was, or if you're just going to allow it if they have some security and blah, like that kind of thing.
Okay, so off the top of my head, I would say when the campground's closed, I think definitely then. Maybe over a certain number of people? I don't know. Surely someone's done this before. They can help us with this. No. We are a unicorn. As always. And let's keep being a unicorn. So, maybe size. And time of year.
Potential parking capacity impacts on other, I mean, when you get in the summer, I mean, even without an event, we've all seen that parking lot overflow and parking in the middle and down the
exactly.
streets. And now you throw people camping in half the lot.
Yeah.
What about if you guys had a place in like Bevan, because you opened up the campground, or if there's not enough space in Common, maybe there'd be a space in Bevan.
Thanks, Bella. Can you wait till after the meeting is over to ask your question?
Yes.
Thank you. Did you get what you wanted? We took a long time with that.
I was specifically told to take a long time.
Kate's here now, so you're good. Thank you for that. And, we can talk, we can also, you know what we need, I think.
Yes, we would need criteria around the parking lot.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. We're just not entirely sure what that criteria is.
We're on it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Leave it to the professionals. Okay. Outstanding action items and council policies.
Okay, we can go through this one quickly since that
Scrolling,
one.
we can.
Yeah, right, since Kate's here and we can. So we took a look at the quarterly report, action item report, and there's quite a lot of action items still on the list that have been inactive for some time and have either proven difficult to complete or don't have staff resources to do them. And we're asking council to go through the list of items in the report that staff have identified to remove from the list. And And also, there are a few old council policies that are also inactive. So basically, what we're looking for, staff is recommending that these be removed. So if we go through the list, and perhaps members could indicate if they'd like to discuss it further before removal, or if they'd like to retain that action item,
Okay.
if that works for you.
Yep. That's
So
awesome.
we could just go through one and perhaps indicate if you'd like to discuss it. So the first is the path to recreation.
Transportation master plan.
Yep. Co-op
Yeah,
housing.
It's unfortunate that Rotary withdrew partnership. I understand why, but we really do need an active transportation route out there. Like, we have so many traffic problems. We really want that active transportation route. And then we also have, the issue with Coal Beach and not wanting people to go there. And if you want to divert people, you would need to have that other route, right? Active transportation route. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to drop this. Like, yes, yeah, we can incorporate it into the broader transportation master plan, but I think it's an important piece.
Yeah, so maybe it's still a priority. It still lives somewhere, doesn't it? In some kind of strategic document? Active travel route? It would have
it-
come up in the active travel route.
Yeah, the transportation master plan did show recommendations, but that hasn't come back to council yet. But what I saw was there was going to be recommendations in the transportation master plan that showed that there should be
Yeah.
safe travel route out there. So when that comes back to council, you could ensure that was in part of the master plan, and then it would be in a living document that we would.
Yeah, and then we're also setting up a meeting, a regional meeting with the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure to build relationship and find out how to get projects done with them, because apparently everyone struggles with that. And that route is it's on the list.
Okay.
So yeah, let's not lose that, but let's get it off that particular action. The next one is co-op housing, but so this list is the same list as BC builds would be, wouldn't it? Remember, we collected all those public lands and
Oh.
gave them to,
Perhaps Courtney
Yeah.
could speak to these. Yeah, I
Yeah.
should have mentioned that department managers are here
Yeah.
if there are questions. Because I don't know the answers to all of them.
And I think
So-
there's so much demand with co-op housing organization that until we get a project like that's actually closer to
yeah.
fruition, they probably won't respond to us. So I think this kind of has to be backburnered until we're closer to having something.
Yeah, and we do have two separate groups in the village right now looking for co-op housing, so hopefully,
Co-op and co-housing.
co-op and co-housing, yeah. So, yeah, that's still there we all want it, let's just make it so somehow.
Yeah, I think like on our broader facilities plan that we wouldn't want to drop that because I think that's been part of our vision for a while. So hopefully when we get closer to that, then we can bring that back.
Yeah. And the speed limit review,
Sorry, just to clarify, that one stays on the list, is what you're saying, or just it can get removed out of the outstanding, but we need to keep. Is that, I wasn't sure which.
If opportunities arise, I guess is,
So don't forget about it, but it can come off the list.
yes,
Or-
and if
oh.
there was a co-op or a group of people who came forward and wanted to start a co-op, we would want to share the list of lands and have that conversation with them. Yeah, because we've got that BC Builds list.
So keep the list, but we don't have to continue to try and get them to answer. Okay.
Yeah,
And I think like when we do bring back the facilities plan, then we can have that back on.
as one of our housing
Yeah,
options,
yeah.
potential housing options, yeah. Okay, speed limit review.
So 3 and 4 are both basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Rob, do we know, is this basically gonna be one of the recommendations from the Transportation Master Plan?
Sorry, I asked you to repeat the question.
The 30K speed limit.
So, yeah, well, so what we'd hope council would do in the past was defer this to the traffic management plan so that we could consider, I think what council was originally looking for was a full reduction in the community, because there's some challenges around that, but consider that in light of some of the other traffic calming measures, recommendations, ideas, and some of the green waste, like there's some ideas around calming local residential streets for multi-use, so not just vehicular traffic, but walking, biking kind of thing. And so some of those areas could be specifically designated as a speed reduction. So it was really looking at traffic calming, including speed reduction, in the whole picture of the village, right? And so we'll be able to discuss some of that, I think, with the traffic
back with
management
it.
plan. Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's challenges around implementing a full, just 30K wide speed reduction. There's signage and I think there's some provincial legislation challenges still to consider. So
Has the signage and the little flashy sign at the bottom of Kendall been effective in reducing speeds on?
I think it has, along with the 50K flashers coming into the community on Royston Road. I think that from what I witness anyways, driving in and out of the community every day, I think they've been quite effective, to be honest with you. So
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't stop speeders altogether, but I think it does grab people's
But
attention.
it does grab lots of
Yeah.
people and slow them down, yeah. But there are some people that just don't
Yeah.
bother too much with it. Thanks, Rob. So are we okay with having that referred to transportation plan and having that conversation then?
Yeah, both 3 and 4.
Okay, and single-use plastics,
We were ahead of the game, what can we say?
again, unicorns. So yep, that one's good to go. Communications antenna policies, so didn't the CVRD develop a policy?
So when telecommunications providers put in, or when they apply to put in towers, there's only a process where you confirm or not that they have done public participation. It's not our own policy as local government, it's their policy, and we just say, yeah, you guys did what the regulation says you did, which is hold a public meeting and take input. It's really challenging because we
Yeah.
don't have a lot of leverage beyond that, so we can say, like recently at the CVRD, they said, no, we don't feel that you've done
Yeah.
like the full consultation. It doesn't really mean anything, like they could still go ahead if they want to with the tower. It probably is good though, practice to have some kind of, okay, how do we determine that part of it? Like, are we gonna say, whatever the standard is good enough for us? Or do we have additional rules that we want to apply to their process? So.
And then my other question around this is, what are the chances we need another antenna in the village of Cumberland? Because we have one already. Like, aren't they?
We've
pretty
already said no in past councils to the setup of multiple micro towers along Dunsmuir, basically. And so, yeah, it happens, right? They do come and say, yeah, we want to put in more infrastructure. So yeah, it's probably good practice to have something
can we just piggyback on the CVRD policy? Can,
I think that still might take some staff review, but I'm getting that council still has interest in retaining this one, so.
Yeah.
So perhaps just leave it until staff has an opportunity to spend
Review
some
what the
time on it.
CVRD has done, yeah.
Keeper?
Yeah. Just in case. School active travel. So that's, that council directs staff to engage with School District 71 relating to school active travel in the intersection of First and Ulverston. So is all that, the Safe Routes work done now? Sorry, Rob. That's probably you.
I don't think we carried out everything that we had in the
Yeah.
plan. We did do some of it, but.
Yeah.
Not all the work has been completed. There's still some sidewalk improvements. There's other corridor improvements, I think, identified in the plan. Still in the future years' budgets.
Okay, but they've all been allocated to a budget line somewhere.
Some of them have, yeah. Some of them are on hold because of the potential future traffic circle at 4th and right, there'd be some realignments of some of the routes. I don't think the village wants to invest in sidewalks, so they're going to get ripped out
Yeah, yeah.
2 or 3 years down the road. And the other thing is specifically this First in Ulverston, the school board, I think, or the school district has an application, and I think to expand
Yeah, to do,
site. So I had a conversation with Ian Hasselgrave, and he said really we should hold off on anything until they know what kind of the future looks like for that site. So that's
Yeah.
kind of where we left it.
So, but this one is specific to First and Ulverston, right? Because there was other things, like on Agramont, there was some other suggestions in that active transportation plan.
Yeah, we'd done the sidewalks. I think we'd done some connections, improvements to direct some of the school kids to the crosswalk. And I know Joel still has a plan to install a crosswalk further down to the back of Stone Lake
Yeah.
Station. There's kind of a crossing point there. So we're still
Right.
looking at that and trying to find some funding sources for it. So, but as far as First Street and Ulverston, yeah, we think it's probably best to wait to see what the whole school plan looks like.
okay. Thank you.
So we can take that off.
Yeah. And the invitation to the Guardian Watchman, that's done as well. And automotive service station zoning.
Yeah, so I think,
Are they allowed in every commercial zone? Where are they allowed? Do you know off the top of your head, Courtney? Sorry.
So I did look into this a while ago, and there are, I don't remember the details, but they are allowed in a few places. So there is an opportunity for a new gas station in Cumberland per our zoning, in more than one place.
yeah, I'm okay with it being reviewed with the official community plan, but say we have that commercial space in the new Coal Valley phase. Could a gas station go up there or next to our ecologically sensitive area?
Ravine, yeah.
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
And I just think, overall, why would we allow them if we're trying to move away from that and
Yeah.
trying to put in more charging stations and
But if we removed that use from the commercial zone, then that would apply to Coal Valley as well, right?
That's right.
so then we remove it from this list, but it becomes a recommendation
For the
as part of the
OCP.
OCP review?
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Awesome, thank you.
thanks.
BC speculation tax, that's done too. Geotechnical report for the Cumberland Hotel.
What is happening there? That's changed hands again?
And so we, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
So the last I saw, it, they're actually applying for a statement of significance with the Heritage Committee.
There's already an SOS on the building.
Okay, and they're,
But they're doing a heritage, the application included some sort of memorial piece, I think. I think that's what you might be talking about.
But it's been withdrawn anyway.
But it's been withdrawn.
okay.
So, but those proponents could come back with the same application, but it would come back to us. They couldn't, so the new owners couldn't just move forward with that application because it's old now, right? Not quite
Um,
2 years.
that's right. What was the date on that?
September
Resolution?
2022.
Yes, I think that the interesting question, because because of the pre-application conversations we've had, we know that they're telling us that there's a redesign happening. So it was based on that our understanding is this isn't relevant anymore. But maybe I should look into this. I could look into this quickly, actually, while you finish this item and find out exactly when that heritage permit expires.
Sure.
Let me do that, if that's all right.
Awesome,
Okay.
thanks. Regional Recreation Access Membership Pilot is also done.
Yeah, it's been axed.
And then the policies, there's wastewater advisory terms of reference from 2016. That's all finished. And new terms of reference, new terms of reference will have to come forward with the, it's not, like it's not built, obviously, but they will have to do a new one for the LWMP. Maple Lake fundraising policy, that definitely can go. Coal Creek Advisory Committee terms of reference. Oh, and they're done because the park's built. AcDev Strategy Steering Committee, also inactive. 125th is done. Bottle drive applications.
This is one of my favorites, and I'd be really sad to see it go. Way back in the day, the village used to
The number of
schedule bottle drives for all
Oh
the
my
sports
goodness.
teams, so they didn't conflict and bottle drive on the
Wow.
same month.
And do we still do that?
No.
No, they never, no.
It's all on, it's
It's
just,
all-
it's Facebook now.
It's Facebook, it
But I
is.
just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you.
In time as a village.
Times, they are a-changing. Okay, Courtney, what did you find?
Okay, the Cumberland Hotel Heritage Alteration Permit expired in December of last year.
Okay.
So it cannot they can't just come in for a building permit
It's gone
for
forever.
that one. Yep, it's gone forever.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll see
Thank
what they
you.
bring back. Thank you. That's kind of exciting. Get to relook at that spot. Okay. So in the additional list, so there's the MNAI thing in there, that we participate in the MNAI, and that we contribute money to the project in 2019 and 2020. I feel like that one could go.
Well, it does say complete.
It says in progress too, which I'm not sure why it's still in
I
progress.
believe that there was 1 year, and then the second year, it's just, I'm not exactly sure what's happening
What happened
with
to
it. Yeah, but it didn't, it couldn't be marked as complete because I'm not sure that
There's
it's
something hanging
complete
there.
where it's at the,
Yeah.
But it's with the
I don't think it
CVRD,
completely
right?
closes. I don't think
Yeah.
the municipal natural asset thing I don't think it just stops. I think there's it continues to be-
Ongoing
yeah,
monitoring or something.
maintained,
Yeah.
But not for us. So
I
we
think,
could probably
I think
pull
we're
it.
done. I think we would
Yeah.
participate if they continued or needed us, but
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't seem to be something, yeah.
Okay, let's let that go. And then just right under that one, there's another, the list of possible publicly owned sites, and that says in progress, but I think we did that.
It's complete, yeah.
And,
Mind saying the number or something? I'm
oh,
not
sorry,
sure.
yeah. So the next one is Committee of the Whole 2020-04-27. That the Committee of the Whole recommend that Council consider cash and loop parking requirements for Camp Road neighborhood during a comprehensive village parking study. Oh, I guess that parking study is still in process. I was gonna say, let's give it to the OCP, but we should do it with the parking. And then the next one is the 2020-04-27. That Committee of the Whole recommend that Council consider reducing the minimum setback to 0 meters and establishing maximum setback of 2 for Camp Road during the next zoning bylaw update. So that would just naturally follow the OCP?
Yep.
Yeah? Yeah, okay. And there's another 2020-09-14, that can go too, because it's a 30-kilometer zone again. And 2020-11-09, council approved the revised heritage alteration permit to collect security for mural for, oh, that's, I guess, still in process, because they might come back, okay?
Is that,
That's beside the Waverly.
that's beside the waiver, okay.
And then there's another transportation 21-45. Council directs staff to bring forward a report on implementing 30-kilometer. That's been referred, so that one can go too. And I think the 21-221, the council investigated an agreement with Airbnb to recoup the hotel tax. That's being taken by the province, hasn't it? So we could probably let go of that one? Or do we want to keep it? Okay, they're not. Nice, okay. Yeah, let's leave that to the small towns. Okay.
Yeah.
That the committee direct staff to consider options for relocating the Sandy dump outside the downtown core and future planning projects. Can we remove that?
Yeah, remove that and revisit it once,
Once there's another Sandy dump in the
well,
valley,
once there's another sandy dump in the valley, and once we have our
wastewater.
wastewater treatment plant up and running and functional, and then we can revisit.
And the plastics 21-293 is there. I don't know if that's the same one above that's removed, but that can also go. The antenna, which we did. The active travel we did.
The Recreation, Arts, and Culture Master Plan is still ongoing, yes?
Yeah. But not the money. The money we used, didn't we? It's
Last one on the page there.
21-330. On page 36.
Oh, 136. Yeah, we could remove that because that's actually part of your strategic priorities now, and so it's part of an initiative. So yeah, does that sound?
Okay.
Yep.
Good. So, and then the RAR, do we need to keep that on? Didn't we do that and it's gone?
Which,
Did we meet at
Sorry,
that?
22-399 on page 37.
You could decide to remove this. This is everything was done except for the one piece, which was the.
The building, which we've done another council motion on. We haven't. Nope, not yet. Okay,
So you could actually.
hold that whole thing.
Courtney, could we remove that? Yeah.
Yeah, done. Okay. Service stations we did. Speculation tax we did. Peer review we did. So then there's 23-105, and it's the polls. And I think the only thing that's still in progress is that council directs staff to research potential grant programs for funding the carving and raising of permanent welcome poles at Peace Park, but I think those poles are gonna stay there. So maybe we don't need this one.
Okay. That's definitely something you can always bring back as well. In a
Well, we'd bring it
different-
back for the housing, not for
Yeah,
the park,
that's
right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's it. Oh, so this is also pertinent to the next item. So 23-188, it's the motion around supporting local news media and not advertising on Facebook. So we could just refer that to the communications policy, maybe? That's on page 39.
I think we're working on that right now, drafting that
Okay.
policy, and it'll probably be a corporate staff policy
Okay.
procedure rather than a council policy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
remove that.
Yep. And then there's a 23-242, council approved the renewal of temporary use permit for non-medical cannabis. But I think we did that.
23 which?
23-242 on page 40. Do we still need it there?
Yes, and we're working on a report for council on that.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, awesome. That's all I got.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Anything else, council, on the list?
It is nice to see a lot of these in green
Yeah.
as we get down here towards the
Yeah.
bottom.
Yeah. It's less for us to review the next time it comes forward. And less things hanging over staff's heads. Okay? Okay, so next up is, community grant program applications.
So this report was on your last week's council agenda for
Yes.
a decision, but since that meeting was canceled, we thought we'd take the opportunity to bring it to the committee of the whole just to see if members had any questions on the applications or if you were seeking any more information that perhaps the applicant hadn't provided in their application. And staff could try and connect with them over the next couple of days if you did have any questions or were looking for more information, and bring that back to the March 25th council meeting for a decision. If council's or committee is ready, you could always discuss allocation at this meeting and make a recommendation through a motion to council on the 25th if you're prepared to do that. And I think there's a summary of the applications there and the projects being proposed. The total requested is $12,800. Your budget is $10,000. And there is also the alternative in the report about leaving some of that grant funding set aside for the
National
Indigenous
Day.
Peoples' Day in June, where we may receive a request to support that event as well.
Okay, council, thoughts? Questions?
I mean, all three of these are good applications. I understood the Rotary Club, when they first came to us, had said that they were just looking for permission and they weren't going to be asking the village for money.
Yeah, and I also, I have a question around that one because in our policy, it says we don't allow applications from organizations that reallocate or donate funds directly to individuals, businesses, or other organizations.
Yes.
So that's sort of,
The applicant did check that they don't do that.
they don't
So-
do that.
On the application, yeah. So I can inquire
Yeah,
if that is the intent.
right.
I'm not quite sure if there was a plan in place for the climbing boulder on how the project was going to proceed, if the funding was going to be returned to the village. I'm not familiar with that project, so, or if there is a plan.
Is there an update of any kind, Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as of now, the plan was they were going to raise the funds independently and just sort of check in when they met specific milestones. We haven't heard back from them since then. I'm not sure how it's going. And yeah, the boulder would have. I'm honestly, I don't think we've worked out all the details of how it would go. Whether the money would probably come to us, and then we would project manage at some point. But it was, yeah, we haven't. Once we hit some of those milestones, we would have started figuring those details out.
Okay.
I kind of don't mind supporting them in that I think maybe they could leverage some of our money to get other money. And maybe they were a little over ambitious or on saying that they could do it all alone. I think it would be a great addition to the village, so I wouldn't want to see it fail. So I would want to offer them some support.
Yeah, and so maybe we just need to check with Rotary, and maybe the Boulder people come by themselves, but they're not organized into an organization, right? So that's also a challenge. I don't,
I'm not familiar with the
yeah,
the project other than the information that Rotary's given in the
yeah,
application there.
okay. Yeah, because I really like that project too, and I want to see it succeed. But it doesn't quite fit our policy.
I wonder if instead of actually giving the funds and then just having it been given back, you could, I don't know if, is there some way to allocate it and it could go to a something
Directly to the project.
like and not actually the cash go out the door, because if it's not going to be if it takes years and years, or it might, I don't know
Through
if
the
that's,
village accounting, I guess. we could
yeah,
do that.
like I'm just wondering if you could commit it but not actually give the money, and then that way there's, because if the money's going to come right back to us, it kind of
Yeah.
I don't know, but
And
Sounds like something we might be committing for the next 10 years, and then it will happen.
$2,000 a year.
and I could say that the community grant guidelines are they're for the applicant.
Yeah.
I think council has some discretion depending on the project proposed to
Yeah. Yeah.
to
You
have
know
some
where the
wiggle room.
monies go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, For the other two, I'm fully in favor of the defibrillator. It makes no sense to me to have a health facility that doesn't have a defibrillator. And the one for the seed funding for the I sit in on some of the when I can, I go down and sit in on some of the early years meetings, and that's where this is coming from. And they're just looking for some seed money to try and create some awareness of the programs that are available in Cumberland, create some facilitation of helping to get people to the programs that are struggling. That's the main thrust of it, is trying to reach out to the families that aren't accessing
Yeah.
these programs, and trying to provide opportunities for the children that are sort of falling through the cracks.
Yeah.
So this is actually a fairly worthwhile.
Yeah. So, but they could do with less.
They could, I'm
Yeah.
quite sure they could do with less, yes.
Yeah. So the notes I made were like the defibrillator is obviously, that's what it costs, so that's
Yep.
that. And then 5,000 for the Child Development Association, and 2 for the Boulder. But that was before I saw the Indigenous Day thing that came up last year, and I do think we want to support that, so.
What was that last year, $1,000?
Well, we didn't have,
We didn't have any of
we
those.
gave staff support
Yeah,
instead because it didn't come to budget process or through this process,
so
so.
if we could save $1,000 for that, that would be nice. So
What do you think?
342 and then $1,000 held in reserve. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that.
Or 333 and
And
hold
two.
$1,000 in reserve?
Yeah. I think $1,000 is fine,
Yeah, and that's quite fair.
yeah.
Give them all the same.
Okay, do you want that in a motion to go to council?
3 for the defibrillator, 4 for the Child Development Association, $2,000 for the Rotary, 1,000 retained. Right? Is
Yes,
that it?
yes, please.
Is that okay with you?
Yes.
I'm good with that one.
Yeah.
Because we don't know how far away that climbing boulder is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Second.
that's a Terry and Kettler motion. All in favor?
Great.
I'll just raise my hand because I'm the only one left.
And we'll have to bring that back next week for
Okay.
council to
Right,
ratify
yeah.
that.
'Cause it's committee of the whole.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so we're recommending that to the, I see.
Yeah.
Done the hard
Oh,
work.
Good, and then the others can have a crack at it as well if they feel strongly about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Communication strategy. Thanks for waiting, Kate. Come on up.
So patient.
You're welcome to stand or sit, whatever you like.
I love sitting. Well, and thanks for putting me last. I appreciate it. I don't know, I had other places to be today. Perfect. So thank you for taking the time to read the Village of Cumberland Draft Communication Strategy. Nope, I gotta move. Sorry. Yep, sorry.
So the hordes of people watching on YouTube can hear.
Yes.
I watched before I came. The strategy was developed based on background research completed by Zinc Communications in 2021, as well as by the previous draft communication strategy that was brought to council and on current staff feedback. The purpose of this strategy is to guide the village towards the communications vision of being proactive, transparent, and responsive in its communication and engagement with residents and staff, and to create an informed and connected community. It completes Council's strategic goal to implement the communication strategy, as well as moves towards the goal of encourage stronger community engagement that are in your 2023 to 2027 strategic priorities. In the strategy, we look at both internal and external communications. Internal with how we talk to each other as staff, and external with how we talk to each other in the community. And we have 3 objectives that we're working towards in the internal communications. Those are have a staff that is informed about the actions of their department and other departments. 2, improve employee morale and service levels by keeping staff members informed and aware of activities and decisions that affect their work and community. And 3, have a set of guidelines for distributions of external communications, so to make things as clear as we possibly can. And underneath those objectives, we have a lot of actions that will hopefully get us there. And a couple that I'd like to highlight. Send the weekly update report to all employees via email, but also by print and posting it in public areas. Have a yearly communications plan so we know everything that is going to come out and we can plan ahead. Have our news posts ready to go in which months we're going to need extra press releases. Continue our quarterly all-staff meetings that focus on the upcoming priorities, and we have one coming up that is Michelle is leading. And to keep everything clear and smooth and organized, have a communications flow chart so that it illustrates the distribution process for each communications channel that we have. And the Village of Cumberland has a lot of communications channels, so it's good to keep everything clear. And then finally, one that's always close to my heart is create an employee recognition program. There's a lot out there that can be negative for staff, and having all of the positive feedback that they do get from residents and that they do get from each other highlighted is a great way to improve employee morale and just make everybody feel good. Yeah. So yeah, I think internal communications is always my baby. And then for our external communications, our objectives are to improve the external communications with residents, businesses, and other community stakeholders through strategic and proactive communities. to improve quality of communication through the effective use of communication tools, and a consistent standards of writing and adherence to visual identity standards. So to have a clean look for the village and always use it. And 3, to support elected officials by distributing timely, relevant, and current information to residents. And once again, we have actions that will hopefully help us towards these objectives, and ones that I would like to point out here is to use a variety of print and digital means to inform the community, such as press releases, utility bill inserts, Currently Cumberland, posters, our new WasteWise app, the website news posts, emails, and other applicable social media. As I'm sure you're aware, not all residents in our community use all of our communication channels, so we need to have a diverse range of channels to ensure that we are reaching everybody that is out there. Not everyone's on social media. Having a website news post sign-up campaign so that we can get as many residents as possible on our email list so that we're reaching everyone that we can. And as part of the annual communications plan, have project updates and strategic priority updates at village events so that council can go out there, residents can come and greet you, you can talk about things that are going on, potentially Sundays at farmers markets, and it gives council a chance to be people and for residents to come and see them and get their questions answered. Hold on, guys, I lost page 3. And then to increase the Village of Cumberland social media presence. And I outlined this in the council report or the committee of the whole report. And it's something I'd like to discuss afterwards, but we can talk. And then to create a visual identity guideline that includes colors, logos, banners, font, tone, and writing style to just have consistency everywhere from the village. We have a variety of logos and a variety of colors and everything out there, and just having it all the same with a manual so that there's guidelines everybody can refer back to, and that would be good. And then we are working on that, and I'll hopefully be back at another council meeting to discuss that in the future. And proactively provide detailed background information on potentially controversial topics with speaking points for mayor and council so that when we see something coming that we know might be a bit iffy with residents, to give you speaking points ahead of time so that you're not totally caught off guard, even though you're all very good at speaking quickly. And you might have noticed some of the short-term priorities that are in the communication strategy we have already started implementing. So one of them is a full page in the Currently Cumberland, and then there's the corner with the council corner. And we're trying to have it so that it's an easy and consistent space for residents to go to, and they can just catch a brief update of what's been happening at council, a little reminder that they can come to council meetings or watch them at home, and hopefully increase some engagement that way. But there's many, many more actions in the communication strategy, and I'm happy to chat about any of them.
Awesome, thank you. This is really great. So thank you for all your work on it. Questions? Comments?
It looks great. I'm just wondering, the bulletin board isn't mentioned as a place to put communications.
A physical bulletin board
No,
or the social media bulletin board?
The community bulletin board. I think that's the most used Facebook page in
Oh, no, that
Cumberland.
is mentioned in the external communications when we talk about social media.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so there will be a regular posting to that one as well?
That would depend on whether we decide to have our own Village of Cumberland social media page. So we're not going to regularly post on it unless we have our own page, because otherwise you'd be posting on it as a community member or staff member.
I see,
So, which is not okay. Yeah.
I see, so
I'm doing
create our own page and then cross-post it to there.
And then you would cross post it. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. And you could share it. And that
Share it
comes.
to a bunch of
You could
pages.
share it to a bunch of pages. And then there's a lot of opportunities and positives from doing that. You're also looking at a lot of potential controversy as well in the comment section. And you would need to have a staff member who is trained and
Yes, if-
consistent with their responses.
If we're gonna keep it
If you're-
open for commenting,
that's
then,
correct.
then we need a point person to handle those comments, yeah.
Yeah, so that's my question. Couldn't we develop a page that does not allow comments?
Yes.
And then in the description of the page, this is how you reach us for comments, this is an information out, and it saves us all that staff time and
Yeah.
potential drama.
Yeah, and that's definitely something I would recommend. You do lose engagement in
Yeah.
that thing and come across a little bit like you don't want engagement,
Yeah.
which might be okay too.
I mean, I think
but
if
it is
we-
out there to
Yeah.
for people to comment on. Like the whole purpose of it is for the engagement process. So
Right. But I think as long as we explain that we don't,
Yep.
you know, we could increase your taxes so that you can pay for a staff person to do this.
Yeah,
And
or
respond,
you could
sit
be
all
kind.
day and respond to Facebook posts. I don't think that's a
Yeah.
valuable use of our time, so.
I think potentially looking at Instagram as an alternate solution might be something to move forward with. You get a different demographic on Instagram that isn't necessarily on Facebook. I would say that the people that we are reaching on Facebook, we are already reaching in a bunch of other ways, and that the Instagram demographic is generally under 40, and we have a lot of that population
Yeah.
in Cumberland. It gives you the opportunity to share pictures that we don't have right now. Our website isn't very, and it's not meant to be a place to show pictures, but we don't have that as an option. And it's also a good place to have video messaging. So if you wanted to have, like, hey, this is what's happening at council, come join me, and have your own messages there, then that would be the place for that. It would also have a financial impact
Yeah,
because you need somebody to do that. But
yeah.
And is that one open for commenting as well then?
it is, but it is not as highly used.
Yeah,
The comments aren't as highly used?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
We do have some other proposed communication channels in that Village of Cumberland Public Communication Channel thing document that I presented. And another option is an e-newsletter as well. Which would be a place where we could kind of expand more on the topics that we put in the news posts and have a place to showcase pictures, kind of give an update of the village as a whole in one spot. And then that could be shared on Facebook potentially by other people. Like we could ask the Currently Cumberland to do it. It's $10 a post currently.
Right, but we have a Facebook policy not to pay for advertising on Facebook because
Right.
or we don't have it yet, but
Yeah.
that was the motion we made because of the media.
See,
blackout
I
thing.
read that as being a paid post that we had to like increase reach rather than paying others to post it for us. But
Okay.
that is a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we could just ask nicely if they would share it for free.
Yeah, so that I was thinking about the e-newsletter and just knowing how much work goes into an e-newsletter and then how many people
Yeah.
you send it to and how many of them actually open it and then how many of them actually read it. I agree that it's a really powerful tool, but only if people, go to their inbox and read it, right?
Yeah.
But I think I really like the idea. I really like the Currently Cumberland page. I think it gets every mailbox. It gets every resident in the village. It's super effective. It's relatively inexpensive, I think. I don't know what a page costs. Maybe a page is more expensive than I know.
About $300.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so, if that was our main, like, couldn't we combine the newsletter and do that in Currently Cumberland? I mean, it's a different thing, I guess, because you can't fill it with photos, because then you've lost your text.
I think the key is to find a channel where we could use some photos, just
Yeah.
with so many things that are happening. It would be nice to have a place to share like road work in progress.
Totally.
This
All
is
those
what's
broken
happening at the wastewater. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hugely valuable, yeah. So that was one of my bits of feedback is in the external communications, I would put the short-term priorities, I would have the social media presence in the short-term priorities. I think it's really, really important that we start using those tools.
And would that be a new social media channel or using the tools that we already have, such as the
Well-
Recreation Facebook page and the Emergency Services Facebook page?
I think we need a new page that's for the Village of Cumberland as a whole. And I don't know whether we combine then the recreation page, you would know better, or what
Yeah, I think we would keep
functionality?
my recommendation would be to keep them separate. That's what Campbell River does. That's what the town of Comox does. There's so many recreation-specific posts that I don't think that they
And
need
that
to
could
go.
have comments, because nobody's
It
gonna
already
rant about
does,
it,
and
right?
yeah, it's all
Um,
fairly well maintained.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think a branded social media presence is important, because right now I'm posting the agenda, but
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm not sure that should be me. And it's not, I don't know, I just think there's things that happen in social media land that are, just, I think a branded presence is really important for truth and,
Yes, especially with there not being a news presence on Facebook anymore, I would agree that having a place where residents could go to where they know the information is correct because it is coming from an approved source is important. It just depends on how much staff time you want to allocate to that and
yeah.
a financial commitment to it.
Yeah, and how many people are going to read the description of the page to find out that this is why we can't allow comments?
Yeah.
And people could take our post and share it themselves,
Yeah.
and comments could happen there.
Yes. And then are we going to comment on those shared
Yeah.
posts? Yeah.
And I would say no. Stay far, far away from that.
Yeah, I think there's opportunities where if you see a bunch of comments on a certain topic, that we could then create our own post without ever acknowledging those comments. That kind of
Yes.
addresses them.
Yeah.
And then people
Yeah.
could use that to reshare.
Yeah.
But that does mean that somebody's going to have to be really aware and on top of it. And yeah.
And on that note, I think it's important if council's on the same page of that, because that will have a budget implication. So it'd be good for us
Yeah.
to know if you guys are on the same page as that or not.
So, and the budget asked the 3,000, that's just, I don't remember what it's for, sorry.
That was just the increase for the Currently Cumberland. We have a budget for like when we just do little ads.
And now
but
we're
to
doing the
have
full page.
Consistent one page, there would be a budget increase.
I don't support having a Facebook page. I just think it's too much staff time. That's my opinion. I would support a one-way Instagram page. I think that's a better way to go. I really liked the internal communication stuff. I think that's really, really important to have good communication. And it would actually, really increase efficiency. I think if everybody was well informed about what everyone else is doing. So I really like the suggestions around the internal communication policy. That's great.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, me too. I really like the, just highlighting, the staff, and, yeah, I think that's all really helpful, will be really helpful.
Yeah, I think I'm similar to Jesse. I think I'm okay with the budget for the Currently Cumberland page. Does that page then appear on the Currently Cumberland Facebook page as well? Is it a?
No, it's online on their website where they share the digital format of the Currently Cumberland newsletter.
Okay,
And I'm not certain if they share their, you'd think they would, and I'd have to look into it, but I don't know that they share it on their Facebook page.
I've never noticed it.
Yeah.
I haven't noticed it either. But yeah, I think that's a worthwhile, the one page, it does look good in the Currently Cumberland. It gives people an idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And everybody reads it. The Facebook page, again, that's a lot of staff time, I think, to get it up and actually,
Did we talk
for
to,
it to be meaningful.
yeah, Did we talk to Comox and Courtney about how much staff time it takes them to manage their Facebook? They allow comments, so it would be
Yeah.
different. But
It'd be worthwhile I can chat to Comox and ask them what it takes, because they are also I believe a one-person communications team. Courtney has like 3+ staff.
yeah.
One who that's their whole job is social media. So
But Comox does a great job on their social media.
their Instagram is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can make that recommendation, and then we'll get the input from the other two on the recommendation.
When you say the weekly update, that's the council reader?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so there's a,
Did you have any
oh, sorry.
feedback about any of the other engagement processes with going to village events or?
I think that's a good way to approach people. They're there, you can
So,
force them to learn.
so is that, are you picturing council members being at the village events or
Yeah, I think
staff?
that would be led by council members.
Be led by council members.
People like to see their council members out in public. And
But staff would make sure that you have good speaking notes or good information.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea for engagement. Again, it's time consuming. Yeah, it would be interesting to see whether we got any engagement.
yeah, I think the farmers market could be a really useful place for that, rather than I had originally thought some of the bigger events would be more populated, but it's so local at the farmers market
Yeah.
that it would be
Yeah,
kind of a nice place, and there's music. Hanging out for an hour or two is okay.
I'm already there, so.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other question I had was on the Connect rocket. That's the CVRD text
correct.
alert thing? Yeah, okay, that's awesome. Yeah, no, it's all really good. Yeah,
Can I just confirm next steps?
Yes.
That Kate will look into resources at the other municipalities, and will we bring that back to council, or should we bring it back at budget time, perhaps?
yeah, you could bring it back. You said you were working on branding stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe it could
That's
come
true.
back with
Yeah.
that.
That's good
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I can bring my answers then. That'll be.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else on the communications? Great.
Could the committee make a recommendation about the budget increase, or should we could wait as well for that to come back, or we should probably have that?
We should,
Probably a recommendation
To do
so
that
to
now.
do for next
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
because we're already doing that. So there's a recommendation there that just is for the currently Cumberland additional.
Recommend that the committee recommend to council that we approve the additional expenditure of $3,000 in the legislative services advertising budget to be funded through the general financial stabilization reserve, and that council directs staff to bring forward an amendment to the adopted 2024-2028 financial plan bylaw to reflect this expenditure.
Second.
All in favor? Excellent. Thanks, Kate. Okay. Oops. Question period. Are there any questions? Bella? You're welcome to come up if you want to use the mic.
I think that supporting the Currently Cumberland is a really good idea in terms of like a newspaper that's local, and I think that the support of the council to the newspaper is pretty important. And so I think this is a good idea. I do agree that Facebook brings some people that if they wanted to engage, I agree that going through the email is a good idea. But as technology evolves, there should obviously be review of, just email being the best way of communication in the future.
Okay. And you had a question about the,
We're at a camp.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was saying,
Events
earlier, I didn't really realize that the campground closes in the winter time. So yeah, if there was events that are happening after the campground official closing dates, maybe look at the option of maybe considering a opening of the facility at the Cumberland Lake Park, potentially, like if there was like an application that was after the official close date.
Thank you.
Great feedback, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Any other questions, like online?
No
Even?
online questions.
Nothing. Okay, that's great. That's fine. So a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. And we're just going to move right into, we want to take a
Motion to
5-minute break? Sure, let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll.
Special council meeting. Read, read the what?
We have to read out the motion. I'm still not used to taking a break quickly like this, so I was a little
Oh.
confused as to when we do that.
Okay.
Forgot my chocolate at home. Really could use a piece of chocolate right now. Yeah. Did Daniel get home? Nice. What an excellent role model for his child. We're all like, send a car. We can go get him. Oh, there's actually transit. I tried to. Oh, my mic is on. Okay, so now we're going to call the second meeting to order, our special council meeting, because this was a move over from our missed council meeting last week due to quorum. So I will call the meeting to order at 7:26 and recognize that we are still gathering and governing on the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nation. And look for a motion to approve the agenda.
Move the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? And our first report is the Vector truck repair. Thanks, Rob. Vector
eve-
trucks are awesome, apparently.
They are until they break down.
Yeah.
And in fact, we had another breakdown of the Vector truck. It's a small repair we can undertake ourselves, but yeah. You know, when it rains, it pours. We had a week like that last week. So, anyways, the Vector truck, the water pump in the Vector truck broke down, and this is a real key piece of equipment for our maintenance program. So we bought this truck used in 2018. It came out of Alaska, an airfield in Alaska, and it had extremely low hours on it. And so it was a good fit for the village, and we purchased it and able to implement maintenance programs, and we use it for a lot of hydro excavation, so it's a really safe means of digging up the ground versus traditional backhoe or whatever else. Unfortunately, the water pump, so it's not the water pump in the engine, but it's the main water pump for the unit itself. So it's what provides water to not only the hoses for hydro excavation, but it also provides water to the jet rotor on the front of the truck. So we use that for cleaning sewer pipes and storm pipes and stuff like that. So it's a really big unit, and it's a really expensive price tag, as you can see from the report. So we looked at repair options. I mean, to buy a new pump is like 10 grand more. So to try and do it in houses, it's challenging. And these guys are the experts. They repair these trucks all the time, and that's where we bought it from. So we thought it's probably best to put it on a barge, ship it to Vancouver, get the thing repaired, back in service, and then go from there. So the challenge is we have a limited, well, not limited, but we have a annual operating budget for materials and contract services around $54,000, which would more than half of that would get eaten up by this repair. And so staff is seeking council approval to use $25,000 that was approved in the 2024 budget to go towards fleet replacement, to bolster that fleet replacement reserve, and then we'll seek to find the remaining balance funded through the water and sewer stabilization reserve. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
I don't see that we have much option here.
Yeah, no, I mean, we need the truck. It sounds like, and the cost of renting it is crazy.
Yeah,
So
they're expensive.
I guess my question is, with the 25,000 that's allocated toward fleet replacement reserve, that's allocated yearly at this point in time, so that 25,000 will continue on next year and will.
Yes, and I do believe you guys escalated it each year,
Each
so to
year's-
the point where you were going to get to a point. So that 25 grand plus whatever you.
Yeah,
will
we were
go
trying to get
next
to a
year.
point where we were actually going to be
Self-funding.
self-funding and not looking to borrow every time we needed a piece of equipment.
That's correct.
And this isn't going to set us back too badly on that plan, or?
1 year.
Yeah, 1 year. Yeah,
1 year.
the beginning year, which is the lowest, but yeah, it's not ideal at all. Like, but we've used our reserves for several other things recently, so.
Indeed.
Um,
Okay.
So it's a 2007 vehicle. What's the remaining life, you figure, for
Well-
investing $35,000 into it?
Based on, well, to
don't
buy a
wanna
new
jinx
one
it.
is unattainable at this point. I mean, why we purchased a used one. I mean, this one's got a lot of life left in it, so like the rest of our fleet, we push the limit a bit on life expectancy. So actually, like with any of our assets, including this building.
Including this building, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, was that the purchase price for this unit in 2018, the $200,000 I see there? Okay. So, yeah, $35,000 investment on a $200,000, it's after, 7 years? It's not so bad.
So I'll move that council approve the repair of the Vector truck in the amount of $35,580, not including GST, to be performed by VMAR Equipment. That council authorize staff to reallocate $25,000 intended to bolster the fleet replacement reserve in the 2024 approved budget for the Vector truck repair, with a remaining balance of $10,580 to be funded from the water and sewer stabilization reserve. And that council directs staff to bring forward an amendment to the adopted 2024-2028 financial plan bylaw to reflect this expenditure.
And second.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you, Rob.
Thank you very
That's
much.
carried. Okay, and support for UVCM Emergency Operations Center funding application. Ryan, come on up.
Hello again. So last month on February 12th, I came forward with a report asking for a resolution, or the CVRD was asking for a resolution in support of a emergency services grant. There was a misunderstanding, and there were actually 2 resolutions that were needed. They were applying for 2 separate grants, both from the UBCM, 2 different streams. And so, yeah, they've come back and they've asked if we would adopt that resolution. I've been told, last Friday I was told by our colleagues at the CVRD that the application has been tentatively approved, just based on these resolutions being passed by the partner communities. I'll maybe leave it at that. There's, yeah, open to questions.
Somebody want to move that?
Sure. I'll move that council support the Comox Valley Regional District's application to the Union of BC Municipalities Community Preparedness Fund, Emergency Operations Center Equipment and Training Stream, in the amount of up to $150,000 to further build regional capacity to prepare for and respond to disasters and reduce risks from natural hazards in a changing climate. And that the Comox Valley Regional District receive and administer any funding received from said grants in 2024-2025 on behalf of the Village of Cumberland.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor?
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Regional pooling of emergency and disaster management, Indigenous engagement requirement funding.
Okay, so each municipality received funding without having to apply for it to help with the new Emergency and Disaster Management Act with the requirements for local governments to for meaningfully engaging with Indigenous governing bodies. The village actually received $40,000. I believe the amount for others was a little bit more different than ours, but so what the idea is with the letter from the regional district is that we belong to an emergency service with the regional district, so we all thought this likely is the best use of the funds is if we pool it and they manage the engagement for us for the Emergency Act. They're very, they understand the new act, they understand all of the new legislation, and they would manage that on our behalf. And so staff is recommending that council approve pooling the funds.
Questions?
This makes total sense to me because,
Yep.
yeah, we can't spend it on the Vector truck, so.
We could share the Vector truck with Comox. And maybe that's, no.
So, yeah, no, I mean, we're part of the service. It makes total sense for that we just pull the money in with them and let them run with the program.
Okay, there's a recommendation there.
Sure. That council approve the regional pooling of the village's Indigenous Engagement Requirement funding and authorize the CAO to approve a joint contribution agreement for the Comox Valley Regional District Emergency Management Service to receive and administer funding on behalf of the Village of Cumberland.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay. Questions?
Any online?
Nope, nothing online either. Okay, so there's a recommendation there to move to closed.
Move that council close the meeting to the public pursuant to section 90 of the community charter to consider C, labor relations or other employee relations, and J, information that is prohibited or information that, if it were presented in a document, would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor? And adjourning. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you.